Welcome back to Books with Duddy. Today I'm going to give my reaction to The Crash by Freida McFadden. So this reaction, I will have spoilers. I will talk about spoilers, major plot twists, characters, etc. So if those are something that you're trying to avoid, I suggest you stop here. I do have a spoiler-free review for the book up on the channel as well. But this is your warning that there are spoilers ahead. So let's get started. So this book is about Tegan, who is super pregnant, and the baby's father is some rich guy who knocked her up in a one-night stand. He's, of course, married. She is going to sign a deal with him where she doesn't tell and he gets a lot of money. And something comes up, which I'll discuss in a minute, and she refuses to sign it. She goes to visit her brother, but on the way she gets in an accident, and a man named Hank helps her and takes her to their house. And we'll talk about everything that happens there. So I guess the first twist that happens in this book is where Tegan remembers that she was essayed by I can't remember the rich guy's name. And the memory comes back to her when she actually sees the guy in person. And so she refuses to sign this NDA. Although I think even if she signed the NDA, that's a crime. So I don't think that NDA would matter. But nonetheless, she refuses to sign it. And she tells Jackson about it, who has been really great to her throughout getting this contract done, as Jackson is a rich guy's lawyer. But she tells Jackson about the essay. He is kind of taken aback and doesn't immediately believe her, which makes her really mad. And so that was actually a really important part of the book for me, because if anybody watched my spoiler-free review, I said I thought that this was the most predictable book by Freida McFadden that I had read. And so when Tegan gets into the car crash and, it's obvious that it was foul play, I knew immediately Jackson was ruled out. Because if Jackson was the person who did that, or knew about it, or anything like that, he would have immediately taken Tegan's side when she accused rich guy of essaying her. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind, from what I've read of Freida, that would be the case. And I knew it wasn't rich guy, because it just wouldn't be. That he was way too obvious of a suspect, and it just wasn't him. So I immediately suspected her brother. I wasn't 100% sure at this point in time, because it was so early in the book that it was kind of, it's just kind of like we could meet new characters that, might have had the motivation to do it. But it just seemed so obvious that it was her brother, after her brother wanted her to come up to his ski area, and he was the perfect brother, those types of things. But anyways, let's talk about after the crash. Polly and Hank. Again, with this, there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that Hank was going to end up being the more sane one in the house once we met Polly. And Polly's whole arc was just really confusing to me. Obviously, she's having a mental illness issues, but she didn't even really have an end game. You know, she's basically kidnapped Tegan, and eventually, I guess she decides she's gonna kill her, but like, there's just never any end game. It felt like Polly was just making baffling decisions, which, again, I guess that's mental illness at play, but uh, and then Tegan downstairs, like, oh, one thing that it annoyed me so much was Tegan not taking the boot off. Like, that's just idiotic. Like, you're gonna be in pain either way. You need to get that boot off. And her just refusing to allow that to happen was so annoying. But the other thing in this book that I thought was so predictable was Sadie. And there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that once we met Sadie and her dad, got that little background there, that little opening at the beginning of the book of somebody being killed was going to be Sadie's dad. I just wasn't 100% sure on if it was going to be Polly doing it or Hank. But once I kind of figured out how crazy Polly was, I figured it was going to be Hank somehow. And there was absolutely no doubt in my mind once Sadie was introduced that she was going to end up with Hank and Polly at the end. So again, I think it's just, I don't think I'm like big brain or anything. I just think this was very formulaic to the other three books that I've read from Freida. But I said this in my spoiler-free review. I couldn't put the book down. There's so much stupid stuff and baffling decisions and things that were so obvious. I just kept reading and reading. And I think partly it's the chapters are short. It's very easy to, just say one more chapter. But also, these types of books that Freida does, they're easy reading, and the plot is always advancing. There's just not a lot of fluff in her books. And for me, that is good or bad, depending on my mood. There are times when I like fluff and more world building, and fluff might be the wrong word, but like, major character development and things like that. This just keeps moving at a fast pace. I want to talk about Polly again for just a second. She was such a piece of shit. I can't pretend to know what it was like trying to conceive and not being able to, and losing a baby and all of those things. But the way she tried to manipulate Hank, and did manipulate Hank, was disgusting. Saying that you are going to unalive, I think I have to say on YouTube, yourself is disgusting. That really annoyed the hell out of me. Again, I feel like every book I read, there's mental illness involved, but mental illness does not excuse being a terrible person. And Polly was a terrible person. Now, in the end, for some bizarre reason, again, this is where this book, I think, makes no sense at all. Polly saves Tegan. She's literally on her way to the hospital to kill Tegan. Sees someone else doing it, so she'll get away scot-free, and then all of a sudden decides she's gonna stop it. Okay, I guess we could say that deep down she was a really good person. I don't buy that. Um, Not with the way she acted the entire book. And then for Tegan, I don't know, just the idea of never telling anybody what happened to you in that situation. I guess it's a little tough because I suppose Tegan doesn't know just how crazy Polly was now that I'm thinking about it. But I don't know. I think it was weird that she didn't ever want to talk to the police about it. All in all, this was a fine book. It quick, easy read. Some heavy topics, but it doesn't ever really spend too much time talking about them. And standard from what I'd expect from Freida from the books that I've read so far. But let me know what your thoughts were in the comments. Did you think this book was really predictable? Or did I just get lucky making some guesses this time? If you could like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And I hope to see you all soon.